This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the Sunset Safari. We couldn't have started this safari any better. We are sitting here at Ngala, and we're with one of the young female leopards of the reserve. And so this only means that today is going to be such an exceptional day. So without further ado, we want to welcome you aboard to your very own Sunset Safari in the African wild. So like I've just said, this is a female leopard that I'm sure quite a few viewers who've been watching over the last couple of months have grown to know quite well. She's one of the Tswalu Leap female cubs, essentially. And she's sitting here resting up in the shade, and not too far away from her is her mother and her brother. We haven't seen them yet, but she's around here, and there's a carcass not so far away, which again we haven't seen. But welcome. My name is Eric, and behind camera is Owen, as always, and we're just so excited that we're able to show you this so early. This morning it started off quite interestingly, where we went and we were looking for leopards, and at exactly 9:31 we managed to find a leopard for everyone when the show was obviously over. So we decided to come back into the area, and luckily they haven't moved around too much. You can see she's resting in the shade in a nice little patch there, and just look at that tummy. She's got that really nice big bulge, so she's been able to feed quite a lot. She's still just watching us and more just looking at us, and we are a new shape to her for this afternoon, so she's not concerned at all. More curious, I think, just looking at a little bit of movement that we're creating. And if we look very, very closely at her face, you can see that super pink nose. And the best thing about this is that they've got a carcass, and so they're not going to be moving. So we'll try and spend as much time as we possibly can. But whilst we sit here and look for the other two, we'll send you across to Djuma, where Steve's waiting to say hello.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where we have got a majestically beautiful big male giraffe who's just feeding in the bushes over here. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Falconbridge, joined by Craig Zammit on camera. Very excited to have you with us now. If you have any questions or comments, we are live, we're interactive. Please send through the question of the hashtag WildEarth, or throw them in on the YouTube chat stream. If Twitch is your preferred method of communication, just put in the all-important @FC. We'd like to hear from you, and it is a wonderful afternoon out here. This male giraffe was in the open for us for a moment, and of course this is a live safari, everybody, so he went into the thickets, as is his wont. What a majestic fellow. He's got a bit of a limp on him. His back left leg seems to be giving him a bit of trouble. Maybe let me move up. Isn't that incredible how this animal moves like that into the thickets? And an animal of that height and size just vanishes. I find it crazy. Vivian, hello. Indeed, Vivian. Let me go up here, Craigie. I think that might work better. Just to try find you the gap. It helps when the woman is 5.5 meters tall. How's that, Craigie? Right there. Very good. It helps when he's 5.5 meters tall. Well, there he goes. These animals do what they want, everybody. They are wild, and this is wild life at its best. But what we are going to try and do is try and move around one more time to get him in the open. Just around the corner, we're going to get him another view, but my good friend Trishala has caught up with some elephants. Let's hope they go have a drink.
There's nothing more special to me than, like Steve said, catching up with some ellies, especially at a waterhole. It's just a very relaxing, gorgeous sight, and there's actually 2 herds here. One there, and one up by the pan. So they're 2 separate water sources. They're taking advantage of both. Look at those trunks swooshing around. Just gorgeous, and happening right now, live from Djuma in the Sabi sands. Lovely, lovely stuff. Being out here in this particular area is wonderful because you can see it for quite a while. I'll tell you about all the animals we can see there in a bit, but let me tell you about myself first. My name's Trishala, and I've got VK on camera this afternoon. And I was saying to you, there's some impala up on that side. There's some Ngala. There are the impalas. The Ngala is just a little bit over to the right, under that tree. There it is. The one that doesn't look like an impala. And there's even some giraffe way over on that side. I think you can only just see the neck now, poking through. So it's 25 degrees Celsius, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. To me, it feels a little bit warmer, but that's why being at a waterhole is a great place in weather like this. It's been chilly these last few days, and now it's really, really nice and warm. So all these animals are saying, hey, let's go down to the beautiful waterhole and have a drink and maybe play around, like these ellies are. There must be about 30 individuals or so all together there. Lovely, and now they're going to have a bit of a dust bath as well. Remember, if you have questions about these guys, use that hashtag WildEarth, and we'd love to hear them. But for now, I'm going to send you over to Clive at Phinda, see what he's got for you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. As you saw up on the hill there was a really big Kudu bull, a big male, up on the hill, just standing in the shade. And that is the start of what we're up to this afternoon, anyway. Oh, there we go. He's just walking to the right, just right of those trees. But a really big male Kudu. Look at the size of those horns. Now he is far away. It's just Marcel's exceptional skills on the on the camera here that's helping you see this. But that is, sure, 150 odd meters away from us. Very, very far. So the reason we've stopped in this quite random little spot is this puddle that is up ahead of us here. It's a bit of an overflow from a tank that someone was filling up, and we've just been sitting here because there were quite a few really special little birds that were coming down to drink. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Just as we speak. There's a Cape turtle dove, or now it's called a ring-necked dove, that's just flown in to come for a drink. A little bit earlier, there were lots of yellow-fronted canaries. There were some blue waxbills and common waxbills. There's one bird in particular, though, that I'm really, really, really hoping comes down to drink. And that is called an African quailfinch. So we're probably going to sit here a little bit longer. Yeah, we're going to spend a little bit more time here. Let's see if these quailfinches come to drink.
So we have found an amazing little predator. This is a barred owlet, and sitting in the sun trying to catch little insects in the grass just below this little bush here. A very, very awesome bird to see. It's nice to see it because it's super well camouflaged. Glad we found it. They've got piercing yellow eyes, and it's a small owl, only about the size, just maybe a little bit bigger than a fist. So it's a very small bird, one of the very smallest owls that we get in the bush. Welcome everyone to Eco Training Pridelands Conservancy. I'm Michael Anderson, behind the camera is Gert, and we are out on this beautiful winter's afternoon to see what we can find. First of which is the beautiful owlet. So, this owlet is sitting in the bushes just to the right of us, and what's amazing is that it hasn't reacted to us at all. It certainly knows that we're here. It can definitely see us, certainly hear us as well. They don't smell very well, so it doesn't smell us. But I wanted to point something out which we don't get to see very often, and that's the feet of this owl. If you look carefully, you can see that it's got 2 toes on each foot facing forward, 2 toes facing back.
Welcome back live to Djuma, everybody, where this big male giraffe is being very cryptic and showing us exactly how well camouflaged these massive animals can be. Perfectly designed to blend in. Just see his dark neck there. Obviously the long necks of the giraffe have served many, many functions. One of the primary functions, of course, is if you ever do encounter giraffe out in the wilderness, you'll never find them in poor condition unless badly injured. They are able to feed on leaves all year round. With that long neck, they're able to reach deep inside the bush. A long face as well helps to facilitate that. They're able to feed quite low down as well, the same sort of heights as many of the other antelope. And of course, they can feed right on top of the trees. Fluffy pineapple, you want to know if giraffes have many bones in the neck. Well, Fluffy pineapple, you're probably not going to believe this, but the cervical vertebrae within the giraffe's neck are the same number as in your neck, 7. 7 bones in the neck. Their bones have just ossified much larger, far bigger pieces of the vertebrae. Our neck, if you put your hand on the back of the neck, you try to feel the individual points, is really quite small actually. It's not very big. There's just, the neck is this. But take each of those different parts and just push them, grow them even further. That's what's happened to this fellow over here. That's what's allowed him, or the species itself, to get such much longer necks. They haven't developed new bones. They haven't invented new parts of the body. They've just pushed them to another extremity. So we're going to see if we can get around to maybe get you another view of this beautiful animal.
Right, welcome back everyone. This is one of my favorite little birds. If you can see the little bird on the screen there, it's called an orange-breasted waxbill. Now it's probably only the third time maybe that I've seen one here. It is an extremely hard bird to find, very, very small, and really not something you see often. As I say, I've only seen this maybe 3 or 4 times, probably 4 times in my life, and I think 3 of them have been here, which in my 4 odd years of being here is not a lot. So it is an extremely special bird. I can't believe we've actually managed to get them on camera because they are so hard to find normally. Wow. Darcy Ann, I'm so glad that it's a new bird for your bird list. I know there's a few people that are keeping tabs on as many birds as possible that we see on these WildEarth drives. And this is going to be a really, really good one to add to that list because it's not one that you can see easily anywhere else. Sure. So they are relatively common. Common is a hard word to put it because there are quite a few of them around South Africa, but they are extremely hard to find. And as I say, and out of the 3 or 4 times that I've seen them, this is by far the best sighting I've had of them as well. Normally it's a quick view and then they're gone. It can be hard, but I've definitely learned a new way of finding them now, especially in winter when there's not a lot of water around. You know, come to the water, sit and wait, and you can be amazed at what will pop up. Well, while we're going to spend a little bit more time at this puddle, see if any other interesting birds pop up. Otherwise, I know that someone has found some cheetah, so we're going to head there after that. In the meantime, we'll send you across to Dylan to say good afternoon.
Well, well, well. Imagine seeing us again out here at Tswalu Kalahari. Genre on the camera, and my name's Dylan. It is fantastic having you all with us. For any new viewers that have joined us this afternoon, it is wonderful, and thank you very, very much for joining us on these really awesome, cool safaris. I have something particularly fun and particularly fascinating for you this afternoon. I'm standing on this mound of broken gravel and sand, and what could this mean? Yeah, in a world of deep sand, why is this here? I've got something really, really interesting to show you, and hopefully we don't fall in. So if you look down here, and this is very deep, and the edges are very slippery, so I'll try not to end up inside there. We have a real well. Chandra, you fall in, you're climbing out yourself. Eh? So this is a well that we only found relatively recently, but we actually started tracking down records of this. And it goes back more than 100 years now, well, almost 100 years. It was actually, in fact, it is 100 years. It was 2 brothers that operated in this area in the early 1920s between here and a little town called Olifantshoek, which as a crow flies is about 80 kilometers from here. And these 2 brothers specialized in actually building these wells, digging out these wells. Obviously, they had a team of guys with them, helping them in this area. And if it wasn't for these wells, these were the earliest wells, man-made wells in these areas. But if it wasn't for these areas probably wouldn't have been inhabited by farmers. So this is pretty cool. Yeah. Jessica says, holy moly. And when I first saw this, that was probably the first thing that I thought as well. So, Jean and I were just counting. It takes about 3 or 3.5 seconds for a stone to get down to the bottom there. Wow, how cool is that? This is insane. So one of the things I want to do, I actually want to get abseiling ropes. This is my next mission, abseiling ropes, and I'm actually going to go down there and find out what is at the bottom.
We haven't moved a muscle. we were going to go and have a look to see if we could find her brother and her mother, who are somewhere around this area. But she's just been putting on quite a show for us, and she, after watching us quite inquisitively, she actually turned her whole body at 180 degrees, sat, lay down on her belly, and she was just watching us. And so we decided not to move. We didn't want to startle her with the start of the engine or too many sudden movements. And she's just been sitting. And this is such good signs for us. She was, between her and her brother, was by far the most unrelaxed between them. And it's taken right up until now where she's really starting to show signs of becoming completely habituated to the vehicles. And it's just a long process that we've endured, and being sensitive towards her, watching her reactions, making sure she doesn't get too startled and run away from us. And she is just looking so comfy. She hasn't really taken her eyes off of us, so she's not completely 100% habituated, I guess. But I would call it 98% at this stage. And she's just really just enjoying this nice cool breeze. And if we look along her coat, there's actually quite a lot of, there we go. She can't fight the temptation to fall asleep. Seems like that eye is slowly but surely drifting to sleep. Bill, a leopard's face is very sweet, especially when it's this young. Especially when it's a young female, all her features are so delicate, and she's got no scarring around the bridge of her nose. Her ears are perfectly intact. They're just one of the most picturesque animals out here, I believe. And so we've been hearing on the odd occasion a couple of snarlings and we think bone crunching. So it must be the brother somewhere on the carcass, and he's slightly bigger, so he'll push her off of the carcass when they're wanting to fight. And so I'm really hoping that once she decides to move, we might get up, move around, and see if we can see the mother and the brother eating together.
So we've managed to relocate this leopard that we saw earlier, and as you can see, it's hidden in quite a grassy, thick area underneath the tree where it had the carcass. Now this leopard is not completely comfortable up close with vehicles, so we're keeping our distance in order to make sure that it feels as comfortable as possible. And as you can see, this leopard is still feeding on the carcass. I think it was an impala. It's taken it out the tree and it's put it under the tree, maybe because of the shade, and maybe it's a little bit more comfortable down there. But you can see it's very well camouflaged. There were 2 hyenas around here as well at one point, but it seems like they might have moved off. If it's the same leopard we saw earlier, it's a large male, so it might be even strong enough to keep those hyenas at bay. The hyenas didn't look like they were fully grown. They might have been young hyenas. I'm not sure, but absolutely fantastic to see a leopard here at Pride Lands. We don't get to see them all that often, but slowly but surely they're becoming more and more habituated to the vehicles, and they're allowing us these glimpses into their elusive, secretive lives. Every now and again you can see it looks over towards us, but the fact that it's still feeding is a great sign for us. It means it's... Okay, I'm just going to stop talking for a moment. The wind has picked up. It's now blowing our scent directly towards this leopard. It definitely knows what we hear. It can hear us and see us clearly. We are, unfortunately, upwind of it and in the sun. But if we don't come closer and we keep our distance, it shouldn't be affected as long as we keep our voices low and try not to make any sudden movements. This might be a leopard that Taylor and Gert saw a while back. He was relatively relaxed, but not completely so. So let's just see what happens over the next little while. Welcome all of our SABC viewers to Prideland's Eco Training Conservancy. We have found a leopard who looks a little bit nervous because there were a couple of hyenas around earlier. It's busy feeding on a carcass of an impala, I believe. Very, very well hidden in the bushes. Absolutely fantastic. Right. My name is Michael Anderson. Behind the camera is Gert. And as I said, we are here at Eco Training Prideland's Conservancy. I'm talking very quietly because I don't want to alarm this leopard. We are probably about 20 meters away from it. And it's not completely relaxed with vehicles yet. And remember that Pridelands is not open commercially, so it's only our Eco Training students that drive around here. Not too many other vehicles moving around, so the leopards here are still quite alert when we're around. So we're keeping our distance. Slowly but surely, these animals will become more comfortable with the vehicles. That's why we've stopped here, so that it will continue doing what it does without being disturbed. We did find it earlier today, and there were two hyenas under this tree, and they had managed to steal a bit of the carcass. Had red on their faces. Actually, we weren't sure. Maybe this leopard had stolen the carcass from the hyenas. So I just have to stop talking every now and again, just so I don't disturb it. Right, we're going to keep watching this leopard and sitting quietly with it. I'm going to send you over to Trish with some elephants.
I certainly am. You can see that they're all very, very wet, coming from the dam where we saw them drinking. And now they're doing exactly what we predicted. Dust bathing. They'll take tufts of sand and throw it onto themselves. There, you see the one at the back doing it? And that will harden as a layer of mud on their skin. That acts as a sunscreen and also acts to pull any pests off of their skin. It also helps to cool them because it traps water and moisture in between all those wrinkles. Can you hear them? Oh, we're going to have a visitor here. Hello, gorgeous. How nice of you to come right by us. There, you can see that mud. Oh. Little one as well. Tiny little tusks poking through. Gorgeous. And now they're up on this side too. Lisa, you'd like to know if they eat all day? They certainly eat for the largest portion of the day. They're constantly eating. They're eating anything from 150 to 300 kgs of plant material in a day. And in order to get that amount in, you have to be eating for a lot of the day. I see you. Elephants give us a lot of attention. It's one of the reasons I like spending time with them, is that even though, I'm just going to reverse a little so we get a better view again, even though you need to be cautious around them, they also offer you a really nice connection. They see you and they look directly into your eyes, which is something very, very special. Let's have a look at this individual here. They're all moving out into the bush now. Now, we don't follow elephants off-road, and that's for that reason that you need to be cautious around them. because maybe they've had a bad experience today and you look just like the vehicle that they had that bad experience with. So you have to make sure you have a clear path so we don't go off-road for them. Anyway, while this lovely cow tries to push down this tree, we're going to send you over to Ngala, see what's going on that side.
We've left that female leopard, and when I say leave, we've driven 20 meters away from her, and we've managed to find the carcass. No sign of her brother or her mother, but we thought that this was a very, very interesting scenario that was going on here, because if you have a look at the carcass, I mean, it's pretty much almost completely finished. There's very little meat left, and we're now looking at the ribs, where even if you look at the bottom rib there, it looks like it's actually been licked clean by one of these leopards to try and get as much meat off of it. But then as we pan to the left, have a look at the coat and the color of the coat. Look at the foot, got 2 hooves, so it's an antelope of some sorts. And so I might just draw out the suspense and see if anyone is able to guess what antelope it is. But what we noticed about it is how pulled apart it is, which isn't typical of leopard behavior. And when a leopard catches something, they'll start feeding from the rump and they'll make their way up the spine, and they sometimes are quite selective. And if you look at the coat of the individual thing, it will be plucked off the hair, at least, so you'll see these patches of bare skin. So what we think has actually happened is this kill was made by wild dogs, and the wild dogs came in, bit it. When they feed on something, they eat as quickly as they can, and once they've finished the majority of the meat, they'll leave. Especially at this time of year, if the wild dogs are in this area, they more than likely are denning, so they have to try and provide food for not only them, but for the alpha female and for their pups in the group. And so they'll eat as quickly as they can, and then they'll turn and run. And so I think it was a bit of luck by these leopards that they just happened to stumble upon this carcass before any of the scavenging predators like the hyenas or anything else would have taken advantage of it. And it just goes to show you how opportunistic these leopards can be. They will happily go after someone else's food as long as it's food. And on a carcass like this, they'll definitely, just to bounce off of what Trish was saying, they'll feed on as much as they can and as often as they can to get some good healthy meals.
Speaking of animals being opportunistic, we mentioned earlier that this leopard might have stolen this kill from some hyenas, because the hyenas that we found earlier, which actually led us to this leopard, were covered in blood. It looks like they had eaten an animal when it was very freshly killed. So either this leopard killed something, had some of the carcass, and then managed to steal some back, or it stole it from the hyenas. Remember, animals are absolutely opportunistic, especially the predators. They will have to get food wherever they can. Mikey is wondering how long a leopard can go without a kill, and that's a good question, Mikey. I think a leopard could probably go 4 or 5 days without making a kill before it would start getting very, very hungry. You'll start to see their bellies getting very, very skinny and wasp-like, but they'll still be in good condition to hunt. But if they go more than that, they probably wouldn't be very happy. If this was a full impala, this leopard could eat it for about 3 or 4 days in a row before having to move off, and then probably not eat again for a few days. But all that was left of this carcass that we saw this morning was literally a few of the bones and some of the skin, and maybe a little bit of meat on the front part of it. But not much at all. Eating now, even in the heat of the day, so ferociously. It has the opportunity to get as much meat as possible, so eat it whilst it can, and then move on and hunt again if it needs to. So absolutely, most of the animal's predators by this time of the day would be resting. This leopard wants to get as much food as possible. It's amazing to see. And there's lots of hyenas here, so it's surprising that it hasn't taken up into a tree. Oh, it might start moving. Just shifting a little bit.
Sorry guys, but we've just heard a whole lot of testiculars and drongos getting very, very upset about something. So we're trying to figure out what it is. Not seen any tracks around, and maybe it was just the elephants that were disturbing them. Now they've all gone quiet, obviously. As soon as you want to try and figure out what's going on, they go quiet and stop giving you any clues. I hope that I'll be able to find something spotty. Probably a bit camouflaged in the grass, but I know that Steve already has. Not spotty though, but in the grass.
Wonderful people, how are we doing this afternoon? We've managed to come over towards the east and track down a very warm and very fidgety male lion. Now I can't tell you who it is, but he's in the grass, and we would have thought he would have been in the shade at least, because the sun is warm, but he's clearly not in the shade. Moved slightly from where they were this morning, where Trish had them this morning. Only one of them at the moment. Maybe the other one's gone off on a romantic rendezvous with one of the female Nkuhuma lionesses. So not sure how much Trishala mentioned to you this morning, but Thandi was found this morning on Torchwood with her little boy. So they're looking splendid, they're looking happy, but they're on Torchwood unfortunately, so we will do our best in the next few days. I've been looking at that boundary every day, seeing if she's coming in. She does do that. I mean, the lions are on Torchwood at the moment, so maybe she's going to pick her cub up and bring her down over to Vuya's, Hotel side, or maybe going to go over to Chitwa. Welcome back live to Djuma, everybody. You won't believe it, we've moved from a very camouflaged giraffe to the world's most camouflaged lion. Believe it or not, everybody, there is a big male lion in the grass over there. One of our evoker males. I can't tell you which one it is because I haven't seen his face. He's just in the grass flicking his ears and his tail. There were two of them seen this morning. I know we've introduced to you Mohawk and Blondie, and this looks like Blondie to me, and also behaves like Blondie, because Mohawk is a little less relaxed with vehicles, as his brother or brother-in-arms is far more relaxed. But he's doing exactly what lions do best, everybody, and that is lying around. Beautifully camouflaged, isn't he? Hello, Lynette. You want to know what the lifespan of a lion is? Well, in the wild, male lions get up to 10, 11, maybe 12. 12 is really pushing it for a male lion because they are so fiercely competitive when it comes to breeding females that they often can die or give their life in a battle over territory and over females. But lionesses can live up to 16. I think they've even been recorded up to 17 years old or so in the wild. But it's a very tough life being a lion. Obviously, females live longer because there's not as much competition. They don't fight physically. Well, sometimes they do, but they don't have the same physicality when it comes to defense as the males do. But they are prone to many, many injuries from massive animals like that giraffe we saw earlier. One of their primary food sources, buffalo. Very dangerous to hunt a buffalo. And injury out in the animal kingdom can often lead to starvation and can lead to illness and can lead to death. I know it's very sad, but in the wild, these animals live a very short existence. But they do sleep an enormous amount of that time. So we're going to stay with this very sleepy cat, and hopefully he gets up soon.
We decided to just take a moment to scan and look around, and where we were focusing, oh, look at him. Isn't that the best thing ever? And so we started just looking underneath the trees that offered the most shade, and as we were scanning we actually saw his tail flicking from side to side, and so we knew that is exactly where he was. And so we came and had a look, and he seems to be as fat as his sister and as full and content. And just see how much he's panting, how fast the chest is going in and out. And so he's full and probably quite hot. And as a result, I think he's a little bit uncomfortable because he spent the last little bit every now and again picking up his head, snapping at the flies, flicking with his tail, rolling over. So you never know, if he feels too uncomfortable, you might find that he could get up and make his way towards his sister and see if there's one last little bit to eat. So Joy, I think it actually tends to be the other way around, where the males will be a bit more or quicker independent than the females will. And that's just because they're much, much bigger, and sometimes they grow up, when they're 2.5 years old, they can be 1.5 times the size of the mother. And that's a lot of food for the mother to provide for it. And so she'll chase it away. It will get chased away by dominant males. Whereas if a female makes it to maturity and leaves the mother, what will often happen is the mother will essentially donate some of her territory to the young females. And so she's settled down, and they'll very, very often share a territory border. And so you might find we'll have 2 or 3 different generations of leopards, all with the same lineage, and the females will be only a few kilometers apart from one another, where when the males leave, they get up and they walk away, and sometimes we'll never ever see them again. So the viewing of this young male leopard that we have now is already limited, and the days are numbered at the moment. And it's still hopefully another 9, 10, sometimes maybe 12 to 15 months more viewing, hopefully. And let's see, he might give us a yawn. He's also just got such a beautiful profile. There he is. And look how clean those teeth are, very, very white, and it's such long whiskers. And so the only leopard that we haven't seen this afternoon is the mother. But I cannot believe how our luck this afternoon. We started off with the female. We've now seen her brother. You've seen one other leopard in Pridelands with Mike. You've seen lions. You've seen elephants. This day is just only going to get better and better. It looks like he's readjusting. We'll just keep a lookout and see. Flop down in some shade where we can't see him. So we might actually go back to the female and see if she's got or up to anything more interesting.
I am also looking around the bush, trying to find some little critters to show you, or big critters. And I saw some mongoose running about, but then they saw me. And then they scurried very quickly away. We have to be so observant and use so many of our senses when we're looking for animals out here in the bush. Remember, this does happen live, so we can't, find an animal and then record it and show it to you. So you're part of our search for the wonderful creatures of the bush. But that's half the fun, because you don't know what's going to be around this corner, and neither do I. And we discovered all the same. So what you say? Let's look around this corner. What do we have? Not much at all, and most of the time it is like that. But you never know what's around the next corner. So let's send you over to Dylan at Tswalu and see what he has found around the corner.
And what Trish was saying about you never know what's going to be around the corner is exactly true. So as we came over this dune crest, we spotted a little ground agama. It's these small little lizards, and they're actually very, very, very common in these areas, but they're very, very important in terms of a food item for a particular bird here. And that bird is called a pygmy falcon. They eat up these pygmy falcons. It's our smallest raptor that we got here, and they feed a lot on these ground agamas, particularly so when they've got nestlings. So when they've got little chicks in the nest, these will be a very, very important part of their diet. And they're not just associated with these dunes. You actually find we've got two species here, the ground agama, which is this one, and a rock agama up in the mountains. But these ones you find right across this region. So it's a very common species, but very cool. Magic Dragon Lizard says, yay, it's a dragon. Yeah, no, these are little dragons, though. And they get a little bit bigger than this, not too much larger, but about another inch or so longer than this will be a nice size one. And then the rock agamas up in the mountains, they actually get a little bit bigger than that even. But very special little lizards. And they'll often hide in little holes, so little rodent burrows or any other holes that you find on the landscape. They'll actually just shelter in them if predators come past. Or if it gets too hot, they'll do that as well.
Thanks, Dylan. Well, you're back with us in Djuma, Sabi Sands, everyone, where we had a movement. It moved. He moved his leg, tail flicking. I heard a wonderful African proverb the other day that said, the lion is the king of the jungle, but yet the lion also hides away from the flies. Isn't that wonderful? Flies even annoy the big beasts. Big male lion like this, coalition of brothers, the evoker males, if you've not met them before. We hope he's going to show us his face shortly, because he is a very pretty fellow. Blondie and Mohawk, both very pretty fellows. We estimate them to be about 6 years of age or so, and they are in the prime of their life, fathers of many of the lion cubs around at the moment. And hopefully he's going to get up soon and do something exciting. You'll just have to come back and see.
These hair tracks. So on the ground over here, so these big sandy dune crests are actually really good for looking at tracks as long as they're fresh. Because the problem with this bare sand is that it blows over very, very quickly and the tracks become obscure. But what we do have here are some, and I'm going to put a little knife next to it just to give you some idea of the scale. I'm sure you can't advertise the knife brand, of course, if you can't figure that one out. But, so this is a hare. This is a scrub hare that's been hopping along over here and feeding all along over here, just moving down this dune crest over here. That's just one example. Then you've got a bird, probably a corso or something that's actually walked over the dune over here. And here's a yeti track, that big ugly looking track over there. Yeah, so these dune crests are actually quite fun. And unfortunately, one of the things on the soft sand, there's two factors. It blows over very, very quickly, so it obscures the tracks. But also, larger body, heavier animals, actually when they walk, because the sand's so soft, they leave an indentation, but it can be very difficult to determine exactly which species it is, particularly on antelope of similar size range and weights, sable, roan, those kind of things that cross over these dune crests quite frequently. Oryx. But it's always fun. Tracking's always a fun thing to do. So this little hare came all the way from that side and walked down in the direction of where the agama was earlier.
Hello and welcome back live to Djuma once again, everybody, where we are with our sleepy evoker male. We've repositioned slightly to give you a bit more of a perspective of what he looks like, but still the camouflage, the blending into the environment is quite next level, isn't it? Now don't forget, everybody, we are live and interactive. If you have questions, comments, please send them through to #WildEarth on Twitter. Throw them in the YouTube chat stream or use the @FC on Twitch. We'd love to hear from you. Any questions about these lions we can answer would be most welcome. As I said before, there were two this morning. We haven't seen the other one. They moved slightly from where they were earlier, and so we had to track him slightly to get him. But he moved away. Panache 10, you want to know how many lions are in a pride? Well, Panache pride starts off with 2, and that is all that needs to be to constitute a pride. But in some areas, you can get up to 40, 50 lions in a pride, which is an enormous number of lions. But here, in the Sabi Sands in general, you're getting between 6 and maybe 10. And then, obviously, there's cubs in and around. So they go through different years of recruitment, which means that the females normally have an intercalving or interlambing, intercub interval of about 2.5 years. So you can have some boosting. You can have those males being pushed away if they are male cubs. And then 2-3 years later, you have more cubs again. So we're seeing the Nkuhuma pride at the moment going through a little bit of a surge stage with their 9 cubs. One of the other young lionesses is mating as of yesterday. So that's probably where this other boy is. He's busy with that female. And so suddenly you get 9, 10, 15 cubs in a pride with 8 lionesses. That pride swells to quite a big number, but invariably individuals get lost. We lost one of the lionesses last year. We nearly lost one as well. More recently, she seems to have made her way back. But lions do die. And also, if the pride gets too big, they might even split off. It's something we see very commonly up in the Masai Mara. Many of the prides up there are referred to as breakaway prides, where the pride gets so big and the food resources is obviously not as available all the time. And males are hanging around and suddenly too many cubs for too few females or too many females. The pride decides, I'm going to split off from you and we're going to go about our own business. Because the need to eat and feed on large animals is very important, and it's what keeps large prides together. But as soon as those big animals are less available, it becomes much more competitive being a lion.
And it's becoming difficult for me to find animals. You can see that there's these bushes all around, like this one here. This is called a magic quarry. And they can get really, really thick. And in this particular part of the reserve, they're actually all over the place. So you kind of have to look between them. See if you can see any animals. You've also got to listen out. And at the moment, I hear very, very little. Very little indeed. The bush always gives us clues about what's going on. And that's why we've got to listen. That's why it's nice to have these moments of silence as well. Olivia, you wanted to know what type of mongoose I had. I had seen a dwarf mongoose. My favorite kind of mongoose. Anyway, I'm going to send you over to something that's much larger than my dwarf mongoose. It is Steve as well, but also that lion.
Well, thank you, Trish. Indeed, our evoker male here is much larger than a mongoose. But strangely and amazingly enough, isn't it, everybody, that those mongoose are part of the same sort of order, or should I say greater order, with regards to carnivora. are carnivores in their own right. They fit in very differently in the landscape, very different food resource. And it's very important, that cascading effect of predators. You find the largest, the lion, down to the hyena and leopard, and the cheetah and the wild dog, and then slowly all the mongooses as they slowly go down to the bottom. Good afternoon to all of our wonderful viewers out there. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We are obviously coming to you live from Djuma Private Game Reserve. We've got a very sleepy lion over here in the grass. We still don't know who he is. My name is Steve, though. We know that. And Craig is with me once again on camera. Excited to be out here with you. So, if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to know about this male lion, please ask Charlotte, because I don't know anything about it. I'm joking. I don't know. He's one of them. I think this is Blondie. I think it's Blondie. But send your questions to #WildEarth. Throw them in on the YouTube chat stream or Twitch. We're probably not going to stay with him for very long. Going to be, or maybe I am actually, because I am going to be swapping out in a few moments with a gentleman who's taller than myself. He's new on the scene. He's learning the ways of WildEarth at the moment. His name is Raymond Corza, and he's going to be jumping on. And probably we'll do a segment or two here with this lion. So that will be the plan for the afternoon. As you know, Trish is out and about. And hopefully we can find you some wonderful animals. As I mentioned a little while ago, if you were watching, Tundi and Cub was found this morning, which is a very exciting news. But we're going to send you over to Clive, who's found some of the best animals in the African savannah.
Thank you, Steve. Definitely some of the best animals. I 100% agree with them. Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve with myself, Clive, and Marcel. After all the excitement a bit earlier, I think my heart rate has slowed down a bit after those orange-breasted wax bills. And on further searching for some cheetah, we came across the zebra. And they're all just slowly feeding through this open. There's the 4 that you can see on the screen there, and then to the left there's like another 10 or so, but they're in a bit of bush, so we're a little bit harder to see those ones. But they seem to all be slowly coming out into this long grass here. And what's very interesting, if you have a look at this zebra that's closest to us, can you see where he's feeding on the grass? Very, very high up. He's almost taking the tops of the grass off, and that is exactly what the zebra will do, is they concentrate on eating more the top part of the grass, whereas a lot of other animals like rhinos and wildebeest and warthogs and things like that prefer that bottom layer of the grass, right at the bottom. Nice to actually see it. You talk about it often, but it's nice to actually see it happening. Amazing how you can really see how tall this grass is when they walk into it. And yes, I hear a lot of people are saying how beautiful this light is, and you're right, it's about an hour or so until sunset, so it's starting to come into what we call the golden hour, and it's nice soft evening light coming out onto these zebras here. Oh, Elizabeth, that's a good question. So if there's young zebra in this herd, they could fall prey to cheetah. But with a big adult zebra like most of these, cheetah would really battle. It's a really big animal and strong. Kind of the same goes with leopard as well. I've never seen a leopard go for a zebra, but lions especially. Lions or zebra form a big part of a lion's diet. And in this long grass, it's not easy for the lions because there's not a lot of cover, but if they stay low and the zebras walk towards them, oh, look at these two cleaning each other. Look at that. They're both cleaning each other at the same time. See how they're using their teeth? Like a hair comb, like a brush through the hair, pulling out little parasites and... Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, as I was saying, so lions would possibly lie in this long grass and wait, and if the zebras came close enough to them without them knowing, then it could be a chance for the lions. But it's still not easy, having said that. Zebras are fast, they can run fast, and they also kick really hard. So I've seen where a zebra will jump onto a lion will jump onto a zebra's back, and the zebra will actually kick, and the lion will get kicked right off the zebra. So it's still not easy. Someone this morning was asking about the difference between the males and females in the rhinos, and with these zebras it's quite a bit easier. If you look at the ones that have got their backsides towards us here, the one on the right has got a thick black stripe under her tail, and that means she's a female, compared to the one just to the left that has a very thin black stripe under the tail, which means that that's a male. And that's kind of the only way to tell a lot of the time. Can't tell from just seeing them from the front. But speaking of cats hiding in the long grass like those lions, we're going to send you across to Eric now with a leopard in the long grass.
She's not really hiding in the grass. She certainly is just lying down and resting. But if this leopard wanted to disappear, it would do so within an instant. And I mean, around this area, just like Phinda has, this has also got relatively long grass. And she's looking quite obvious. And it's only because we can see the white on her coat. If she were to lie down on all fours and only display that golden and black color, she would disappear within an instant. And it's one of the main things that leopards rely on when they're hunting. And so her and her brother, who are at that stage where they might be experimenting with hunting, are more figuring out how it works, how to sneak up to something to get close enough to make that successful pounce. And so a lot of that will be figured out by playing with one another. And so you might find, hopefully, and that's why I think Owen and I are so keen to stick around for a little bit longer, is if things start to cool down a little bit more and these leopards decide to get up and move, we might see that exact behavior, the two cubs playing with one another, trying to figure out how to pounce, how to use their camouflage to get to their kill successfully. And see, now she has completely closed her eyes. If you look at her ear though, it is moving around, responding to very subtle noises that it can hear. So not completely asleep. And if it hears a loud crack of the branch or some rustling in the grass, it will shoot up its head in an instant. And so she's just basically resting for now. But really nice to see that she's not focused on us anymore. So she's come to realize that we're not posing a threat. We haven't come any closer. We're not trying to get as close as we possibly can. We just want her to settle down to the vehicle. And to see her sleeping on her side, eyes closed, her ear isn't really even pointed at us, is such a good sign. So hopefully from this point on, we'll start to see her becoming more and more and more relaxed until she completely ignores the vehicle. It's so rewarding when you find a leopard who's not that sure of a vehicle and is not, I guess, not really trusting the vehicles, and just watch as we slowly but surely, carefully move around it until it starts relaxing and eventually it becomes completely habituated. There's a few leopards within Ngala who started off, we think, probably never have even seen a leopard until it had reached adulthood. Their father is one that comes to mind. And he's completely unrelaxed, and then now all of a sudden he's completely viewable. Jenna, that's an interesting question, actually. So manes on lions serve for a few different reasons. It's protection, and it's also an intimidating factor if lions see one another from a distance. Leopards have got their own version of a mane, and it only is seen on males who have reached the age where they're looking to get territorial, and we call that a dewlap. And now dewlap is a big flap of skin that hangs from the throat all the way down to the chest, and it's very, very loose skin, so it protects the throat from biting, so that the leopard doesn't get suffocated very easily. And then also other male leopards will be able to see its size from the dewlap from a distance away. So it doesn't have a mane, but it's got a very similar version of what a mane is for lions, and we call that a dewlap. Sometimes, I mean, you might see a very, very old female. It's more saggy skin than an actual dewlap, but she'll sometimes have hanging skin just below her throat, but not anything like what a male leopard can have. And that dewlap will develop from around about 4.5, 5 years old, and then when they're 8 or 9, it's probably as big as the dewlap will get. So like I said, with the potential of the two cubs starting to get a little bit more active, we're going to wait it out and see what happens. And so whilst we sit here, myself and Owen, waiting patiently, we'll send you across to Djuma, and Raymond is waiting to show you something cool.
Welcome everybody to Djuma Natural Safari. We are on a sighting of a male lion Amazon that's lying down. There's nothing about action. So my name is Raymond. We have got Craig in the camera, which is right over here with me. Yes, I mean, it is lazy. The male always lazy, especially when they're full. If you can look very carefully on its belly, that belly, it's full. When they're full, they can lie more hours more than the female one. The male can lie up to 20 hours a day and hunt only for 4 hours. So, but if they are full, they don't have any problem. They believe their braveness. Whatever way they lying, they believe that they are brave enough, so they can relax for more hours. Thanks, Shami. That's a good question, Shami. Ryan, that's a good question. For the lion, is depending if how far they are, but mostly if the water are very close, the male one need lots of water that they can manage to drink time and again, but normally they can live without water for almost close to 2 days. Only if they are far from the water. Thank you. That's a really, really lovely lion, Kara. And it's yeah, we'll stay right over here until it make another action. We're not moving anywhere.
All right, welcome back. And look who's come to join the party here. There's one lonely warthog. So we were about to leave and he just popped out of the grass and came and joined all the zebras. So we thought, well, it's not every day that you actually get to see a warthog out in the open like this. So we thought we'd stick around here for a bit. Oh no, now he's walking into the grass. Typical. Yeah, Marcel's just saying the same thing. Typical. He was out here for a good 5 minutes, and then as soon as we come to show it to you, he disappears off into the grass. How absolutely rude. But it's still really nice to see these zebras again. You can see them, this one now, looking into the grass, maybe at where the warthog is walking, because obviously, especially with this dry winter grass, the warthog's probably making quite a noise walking through the grass there. Ah, look at that. And also, just as we were saying how the zebra was eating the top part of the grass, now this one's eating right down at the bottom. Typical again. Oh, what a beautiful sight though. Alex, that's a very good question, and it is around 1 year that a zebra would be pregnant for. I've actually been trying to look through this group and see if there are any big pregnant females, because you can really see when they are pregnant, you can really see how big they are. But I don't see any, definitely not the ones on the road anyway. But it's around 1 year. That's a good question. And that one male, remember the one male we were looking at a few minutes ago? He will be in control of all the rest of these zebras. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 as far as I can see. There are 14 zebras here, and only one of those will be a male. Well, a big dominant male anyway. Might be some young males, but it also doesn't really look like it. So he'll be in control of this huge harem of females, and he will actually mate with all of them, and they will obviously have his offspring. So he's got to be a really big, strong zebra, and he would have had to fight off a lot of other males to take control of such a big harem of females. Okay, I'm going to carry on exploring through these open grasslands and see what else we can find this afternoon.
Our timing couldn't have been more perfect. Thank you so much, Clive. We have just watched this leopard, and she heard some rustling, and so she pricked up her head, had a look, and we just saw one of the leopards walking straight towards the carcass. And it looks like she might do the same. And so we'll just sit and wait for her to move, and then we'll try and loop around to get towards where that impala carcass is. And there we go, she's up. This is going to be awesome. So we are talking about how well they can disappear using only their black and their golden coat. As soon as she disappears behind that bush on the right hand side, just almost look away from your screens and look back in a second and see if you'll be able to see her. Apart from that white tip, I promise you it will be incredibly difficult. She's now changed direction and walking more towards where her brother was than to, so it might have been the mother that was walking towards the carcass. But I think, let me just see, I'll let her disappear, and then once she's gone, I'll move around. The carcass is literally a 10-second drive away from us. Okay. Yeah. And there she goes. one of the most camouflaged creatures in the creature. I mean, one of the most camouflaged creatures in the creatures. What? Okay. So it's just a quick little loop around. We'll have a look at that carcass. Oh, Pranav, that's a good question. I think in terms of mammals, a leopard is very, very high up there in terms of camouflaging. But I think the masters of camouflage are probably insects. And there are a whole bunch of insects that look exactly like little sticks, little pieces of bark, leaves even. Some will even look like little birds, so they make themselves look a lot bigger than they really are to deter other predators. Sorry, this is quite a dense area, so I am taking it nice and slow, making sure I don't take Owen out. Okay, so we've got a view of the carcass, but no view of a leopard yet, which is interesting. You see it there, Owen, at the base of the tree. But I think this is a pretty safe spot to hang around in. I've got a very good idea as to where that female leopard went, so if she doesn't come back to this carcass in the next minutes or so, we might just try and see if she's gone over to where her brother was. And I mean, they're pretty close by to one another. I mean, that case in point is as she turned around the corner, she disappeared. And so that could happen with these leopards now. So I do just want to make sure that we don't lose them. But I don't see why they would move if they didn't. I mean, if they've got a kill right over here. And so she might have just gone towards her brother. I can actually see her from here, Owen. It's going to be quite difficult, but can you see that terminalia? About 40 meters. She's lying just underneath that. Maybe not. Yeah, so she's somewhere in there, and again, I just managed to see a flick of the ear, and that gave her position away, but I'm not sure we'll see her. Maybe go a little bit more to the right? Or is that her? I can see grass moving there. No. Okay, yeah. I think, look, I'm actually quite interested in sticking with these leopards, so I don't want to lose them. I'm going to just move a little bit. Okay, so whilst I try and maneuver through this dense forest of Ngala, trying to keep up with the leopards, we'll send you to Tswalu, who's got some animals displaying some really good camouflage. Oopsie.
I am trying to get in and look at some birds. It's been crazy. This is just out in quarantine. I've now fetched Theo, everyone. And there are green wood hoopoes. I saw a green wood hoopoo giving a neck intimidation to a lilac-breasted roller. There you're seeing the tail end of the green wood hoopoo. And then I saw a bearded woodpecker. All pretty much in the same tree. It's just awesome. It's so nice to see so many different birds all together. Now way up top on this nearby marula, there seems to also be pearl-breasted swallow. Yep. So the barn swallow can look similar, but it has a kind of a rufous patch on its neck, and you can see that this one doesn't. Bit of a clean. This is how many birds can you spot in one segment kind of thing. Very nice. And I've been trying to follow the woodpecker, the bearded woodpecker. Fluffy pineapple. You'd like to know how long birds can go without a drink? Birds tend to drink fairly often. I'd say almost, or at least once a day, that birds drink. And it's also quite a special thing to see. Flight takes a lot of energy and produces a lot of heat. And so they drink quite often. You do get birds that will drink less often, but those are usually animals that eat juicy fruit, and that would be during the summertime when it's nice and wet around and there are juicy fruits around. But during this winter dry season, birds need to drink fairly often. My favorite birds to watch drink are grey go-away birds. Look at it. Oh, I love it when they stretch out their wings. Gorgeous, gorgeous afternoon here with all these birds and sounds. You can see it. Oh, stretch the other wing. It wants to fly. You can almost see it with a bird when they feel it looks like they're going to fly, or like they feel like they're about to fly. It's almost like they lurch forward just a little bit. You're giving us a look. Also, that's not the sound of somebody sweeping nearby. It's the sound of a hornbill pushing aside some dry leaves, though it does sound like somebody sweeping. Up, off it goes, and off you go to check out some spots.
We admittedly didn't have to move very far until we found it again. And this is the one that we saw moving in the background. And if we have a very, very close look at her, and in particular her ears, to see how different they are to the one that we were watching. So look at how there's lots of bare skin on the very top of the ears and some little cuts around the very edges. This is the much older female, and this is the mother. And so we have now officially seen all 3 leopards in this sighting, which I think is very cool. Now the next challenge is to see all 3 of them together in one shot. We won't get too greedy yet, but this female actually got up and she walked straight towards the carcass and she lay down. And so I thought she was going to go and have a feed, but maybe she's just moving closer because the temperature's starting to drop. It's starting to become really nice and cool for other predators like hyenas to be moving around. And if a hyena comes close and smells this carcass, it will come in to try and get a meal. And if she's very close by and she's quick enough to react, she might be able to grab the carcass and hoist it up a nearby tree. But it's been very interesting to watch her and the way that she brings up her cubs, because she doesn't very often hoist carcasses up trees, which means that she loses them quite often. And we used to think, when the cubs were a little bit younger, maybe she was doing that as almost like a way to distract the animal that came in. They'll be so focused on the impala that her and her 2 cubs would be able to make a quick getaway. But now that her cubs can hold their own, it doesn't really make sense as to why she doesn't hoist up her carcasses very often. And it could just be She's a small leopard, and impala is a very heavy thing to drag up a tree. And so sometimes we do find carcasses up a tree, but when it's of a smaller species. And so she might not have the strength to completely take a fully grown impala up a tree. It's what I love about situations like this, is there's always something slightly different with the individuals. Ben, look, it's like I was just saying, the very cool thing about this is that we'll never know the correct answer. So we don't know if it was wild dogs that killed the carcass. It was just speculation, like I say. It just looks like it was completely torn apart. It's not really how leopards feed on the carcasses. And I mean, it would be amazing. I mean, we haven't seen wild dogs around this reserve in a long time, so to see them again, it would be very, very special. And so now she's falling asleep without even moving to the carcass to feed. But I love it. I mean, every situation that you find, the leopard that you saw in Pridelands, the leopards that you've been seeing in Djuma recently, all have a completely different background, a completely different story, and different things that make them unique. And so, I mean, that's what's so cool to have so many broadcasters. You might be seeing some of the same animals occasionally, but they've all got a completely different story, and they all behave in slightly different ways. See how she's just got alert? I don't know if you saw that. She just picked up her head a little bit. And so she was responding to some sort of noise, I think. So I'm just going to sit quietly, give her the chance to listen. Yeah, so whatever it was, she seems to have lost interest. And we are going to just hang around this carcass and see if she decides to get up and feed. And whilst I wait for that, let's see what those lions are up to.
Welcome back, guys, as we are still on this male lion, still relaxing. It's just only rolling up to change the sighting for himself, as he was sleeping for a long time on one side. So now it's just changing only one side to another side. Still very relaxed. I also get the name for him. It's called hawk. A hawk, because of its head, it's cutting like sort of a hawk like this. So it's very relaxed, as they said before earlier on, that there are brothers, 3 of them. Another one, it's called Blondie, and another one, it's called Dutchman. So right over here we have got only hawk, which is very relaxed and full belly. Yes, Emma, it is a good question. It looks very small, but the kgs are very, very big. It can weigh up to 250 kilograms for the male one. And the female one can lay up to 200 to 240 kilograms. So the reason for those animals to weigh a lot, their bones, it's very, very heavy. They don't have a hole like those other animals that we can manage to get. Sort of like an iron fist. That's a good question, Emma. Ivy, it is not really true that they can sleep the whole day. It's depending, evenly if it is overcast, the lion can be active. But if it is very hot, therefore they can sleep. Maybe I would say it after, once it gets hot, is the time when they are very relaxed. They want to spend more time, to spend energy, that once they're starting to hunt, they still have got enough energy to hunt. So if they haven't get anything, there is no chance for them that they can sleep the whole day. It's not really true that they can sleep the whole day. It's depending on the weather. So the weather control them, how long they can sleep and how full they are on the food. Thank you very much. As there is no action right over here, we will move on through to the other area to Chita, trying to see if we can get something. If it is still have got a chance, we'll come back for this one for action.
I promise you, there's a mongoose somewhere around there. Theo, just out in front there. See its small head? Oh. It's just moved more to the left. It's going to come to the road now. There we go. And off it goes. Well, that was a proper test, because trying to follow mongoose as they move around the mound is a very difficult thing. So well done, Theo. Well done indeed. They're quite little ones, which is nice. I can hear them scurrying. Oh, there's another one. Just there. Can you see it? Feel like we're having a face-off. Oh, it's coming closer. It's coming closer.
Nice to do this to my daughter Ngala, lying up.
Feels like I'm being stalked. And off it goes. Let's see if there's any more to come out of this mound. Don't hear any rustling. No, don't hear anything. Nancy, you're giving me some words of caution there. Run, Trish. You're being stalked. At one point, it felt like that thing was going to jump right on my face and we were going to have a battle. Luckily, it chose wisely and decided not to engage me. Probably thought we're similarly sized. I'm hearing some stuff a little to the west. Let me go and investigate, and I'll send you to Dylan in the meantime.
So we've had a very quiet drive so far this afternoon, but I just want to say two things. Okay, we have this chocolate here is a gift to me from Jean-Dre for our 8-week anniversary together. filming. Can you believe it? He didn't forget. And how this came about is I was just saying on the drive, yes, I would kill for a piece of chocolate on the drive, but I was facing forward. When I turned around, they're like, Dylan, I got this for you. So, Jandre, thank you very, very much for that. And for everyone else that's been on the 8 weeks with us, it's been an absolute pleasure. And someone else that has been with us for 8 weeks, almost 8 weeks, there is Melanie, or Mel Gibson, or let me try and get some light in her there. I don't know if you can actually see that properly. So she's looking somewhat worse for wear, but she is still with us. So, there you can see, there you go, look at that. A fine specimen, that. But anyway, yeah, so otherwise, that's Melanie, she's still with us, Summer Melon, and her seeds are now, I can still see them inside there, so I'm going to be opening up in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, it's just been a very quiet drive out here, but just gorgeous. I mean, there's lovely grass cover out in these parts. We are hoping for some of the species that eat ants and termites, aardwolf, warthog, pangolin, no promises. The temperature is actually a little bit warmer than I was hoping for this afternoon, you know, and having just been through 2 weeks of pretty cold weather, I shouldn't be saying that, but you know, with these Myrmecophagus species, like pangolin, aardwolf, they tend to come out a little bit earlier if it's cooler, so with these warmer conditions, maybe a little bit later, but the temperature is dropping somewhat now, so we might be lucky and still pick some up. But it's just amazing being out here, man. Every day out here is a good day spent. We're looking after Mel, I promise. It's like, Mel, it's okay. And she's enjoyed it. She's been on every single, she hasn't missed a game drive. That's more than I can say for a lot of people that I know. You know, Mel has been with us the entire way. Hey Mel, you're a good person. And African wildcat, eh? We need to get African wildcat. Oh, someone's got a great sighting, a leopard sighting. So let me not waste too much time here.
So we've got this leopard, and I'm sure it's enjoying its food as much as Dylan will be enjoying the chocolate from Jandre. We haven't gotten anything from Owen yet, but we're still waiting, and we are hoping that it's going to be something delicious. This female leopard now, as you can see, it's just come down to the carcass, and it's starting to feed and taking really, really nice big chunks of the rear of this impala. And just watch how far she gets her mouth, and then she pulls big chunks of meat, 1 or 2 chews, and then swallows. And it's a very effective way to get as much meat into her stomach as possible, as quickly as she can. And so that's why I was saying that it's a bit unusual that side hasn't been touched, because usually when leopards start feeding, that tends to be one of the places that they'll start first. But now it's really cool that she's getting some good feed. I mean, I'm sure she's not going to spend too much time around this carcass this evening. She'll probably move off in the next couple of hours, and she's got basically in between a waterhole that we were at this morning and a waterhole where she was at a couple of days ago. And what I'm very excited about now is that she's feeding, and we might not be able to hear it, but her 2 cubs will definitely be able to hear the plucking of the meat and the crunching of the bones. And as soon as they hear that, that might spring them into action, and they might come and try and fight the mother for some carcass. And she's getting to the age, or the cubs at least are getting to the age where the mothers, it almost seems like it's more hard work than pleasure looking after them. And so when they are with each other, and around the carcass, and she'll spend a lot of time growling and snapping, especially at the young male. And just because he's pretty much exactly the same size as her now, and so he'll eat a lot. As Shenzi, she is a hungry cat, and she's got lots of hard work ahead of her, looking after and providing for these two big cubs of hers. And so it's really nice to see that she is able to get a nice big full meal in. If hyenas were to come around, her options are slightly limited in terms of the trees that she can hoist. And I mean, if you look at the tree that she's chosen, it's long and straight. It's a very difficult tree to take a carcass up. But around it is that very, very dense green foliage. And the reason why she's dragged it there is to prevent the vultures from seeing it. And so if vultures saw it, that would just cue more and more vultures to come in, and that in turn would attract some more of the ground predators. So that is the tallest tree, the one that you can see in frame off to the left. It's called an apple leaf, and there's not very many big strong horizontal branches to hold a carcass if she happens to try and hoist it. And so her next available option would be some 20 or 30 meters away, which will be very hard work to grip that carcass, sprint away, and then climb the tree afterwards. And so because there's not too much left, she might just cut her losses, let the hyena eat the remainder of the carcass, and take her cubs to safety. So it looks like she's in for an evening feast, and I really hope that we get to see the two cubs join her to feed.
Welcome back, everyone, to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve, and exactly where we saw those orange-breasted wax bulls earlier, 3 elephants have appeared. Oh, that was a weird sound. I have no idea where they came from because it's quite open around here, but they were obviously hiding somewhere when we were watching those birds. And then we came back towards this area. Look at him having a scratch in his ear. Came back to this area, and here these elephants were. Wow, this is amazing. As you can see, they've been splashing themselves quite a lot with mud, and off on our right-hand side, Nancy, no, this will be a big old elephant bull. As you can see, he's got really big tusks. So yes, this is quite a big old elephant. I would guess probably in the region of about 40 or so years old. So yes, very big. Another one walking in from the left here as well. Look at this. Oh my word. Yeah, sorry, so off on our right hand side there's like it usually is a big watering hole, but there's only a little bit of mud left. I think they've been down there first. Well, the other two have anyway. The one on the left still seems dry. But look at how much mud they've got on them, and all over their head and trunk, and their tusks are like dark from all the mud. Look at him resting his trunk on his tusk there. Hyena, that is a really good way to put it, actually. A big gentleman's club. And that is right. These are 3 elephant bulls that are off together, which you see quite often. Elephant bulls will often be in little groups with each other instead of with the herds of females. Whoa. Having a nice drink there as well. So just have a look at that one in the middle, at the size of those tusks. I mean, those are massive. And this one on the left actually has also got a pretty big tusk, but you'll see on the other side, there's no tusk. So he's actually only got one. And I've seen this bull many, many times. And he must have gotten into a fight a long time ago, even before I started here in Phinda. And he must have lost that tusk in a fight with another bull. And then the bull in the background seems to have much smaller tusks. Quite straight. Whoa. Got a bit of gas. Yeah, very straight, short tusks. So he's a lot younger than these other 2. And it's quite amazing. There's, especially young elephant bulls are quite unruly. Often breaking things and destroying stuff. Whoa. This one elephant's got a lot of gas. Listen to that. Wow, that sound is quite disturbing. Anyway, Christine, you asking how the mud, splashing mud on them benefits the elephants. And it's a couple of reasons. It helps to keep them cool, but on quite a cool day like this, there's not too much need for that. But it also helps with little parasites and biting insects. Just helps to put a bit of a layer over their skin, a layer of mud that will protect them from some of those insects as well. He's not passing wind like I thought. He's actually blowing air out of his trunk, I think. Very strange. I hear you asking if there's a bad smell now. We are not downwind of them. The wind is coming kind of across us on the side, so I can't smell anything. But I would actually be very interested to know if we were straight downwind, if we would smell something. I'm sure we would. I've smelt a lot of elephant dung in my life, and I would say we would probably be able to smell it, yes. Look at how he's using his trunk to slope up a whole lot of water and then transfer it into his mouth. And I say the one thing I just love about watching elephants is watching their tail. It just is constantly swinging from side to side. Sometimes very slowly like this now, and then you'll see in a second he'll flick it properly all the way up the side, and then it'll swing slowly again. There we go, look at that. And then it just slowly starts slowing down. Like an old grandfather clock. Oh look, he's also resting his trunk on his tusk now. Apparently I'm giving you a lot of you the giggles now, which is exactly my plan. I had the giggles myself while he's been doing that. You can imagine how heavy that trunk of his is. I mean, they've got so many muscles in that trunk to be able to... Oh, look at that little water spray. So many muscles in that trunk to be able to push over trees and pick up branches and all that. So that must weigh a huge amount. So I suppose resting it on his tusk like that must feel quite nice. Takes a bit of pressure off the rest of the skull. I don't know if you saw when he splashed water up into his mouth there, he was splashing it purposefully with his trunk right up into the spot where that tusk used to be. And obviously with it being broken off probably in a fight, that is the weirdest sound. I really don't know where that sound is coming from. Anyway, I'll stop talking about the elephant's flatulence now. Oh no, I've completely forgotten what I was saying. Is it slurping? That's so funny. Yeah, I've completely lost my train of thought. While I try to remember what I was talking about, I'm going to send you across back to that leopard that is busy feasting.
Oh, Clavels. I was going to say something, but I'll save it for off air. Anyway, this female leopard now has made very, very light work of the back legs of this impala. So remember when she started feeding, when we started seeing her, it was completely covered. It looked like a really big full leg. And now look, she's literally just picking the meat off of the bone. And so that could potentially be between 2, 3, 4 kilograms of pure meat that she's been able to eat and swallow within the space of 15, 20 minutes or so. And just like we thought, she's not alone. I mentioned that if one of the cubs started to hear the crunching, they would come in and investigate. And so we've been joined by the young male who's keeping its distance, and I'm sure by now it understands its boundaries very, very well. And when mother's feeding, it knows not to push its luck. The good news is that it's got a completely full belly. So he's looking nice and fat and not really too interested in feeding, but he was definitely interested in coming to see what was at this impala carcass. So Owen's just thrown me under the bus and he's given me some delicious ginger biscuits for the afternoon. That's what we get on a daily basis. So take that, Chandra. And there she is, back on the carcass. And see how now she needs to be a lot more selective as to where she's eating. So previously she was literally just biting chunks, 1 or 2 chews and swallowing. She now has to place her jaws quite carefully. And so those very, very sharp, short teeth she's using to pluck away some meat off the bone. But now what she's doing, look how she's looking up. I think she might just be readjusting the carcass. So it just seems like there's going to be more and more activity here. So I'm not going to go anywhere. And if things change drastically, I'm sure we'll see you soon. But it sounds like there's some fantastic things going on at a waterhole. So let's go and see what's going on there.
Welcome back to everyone. I believe that you did enjoy the leopard sighting right over there. Now we're at Chita Dam, where there is 2 male elephant far apart, which is just finishing drinking. And as well, we also have got some hippos, which are relaxing inside the water. Lots of birds as well. It is a very good sighting. That one hippo just facing to us. If you did manage to hear that song, it is a good evening from the hippo. you. Allah, not at all alone. Sometimes only if it is defeated. Therefore, can stay alone, especially for the male one. The female one live in a group. To call it support. So they live in a group actually. But on them, there is one dominating alpha, which is dominating on male and doing his territory. Oh, thanks so much, Anna. Yes, it's so cute on top of the big animal. The ears are very, very small, but they're also very good on hearing as well. Can you hear that voice? It's also a hippo calling. Okay, we will stop right over here for a while to see if is there any action about the hippos.
All right, so two of these elephants seem to have walked away from the water, but this one with the one tusk is still here. And we thought we'd reposition a little bit, get the sun behind him just for a bit of a different view of him, I guess. And it's really beautiful with the sunset in the background and this elephant just here drinking. It is like a quintessential African theme right here. Perfect way to end off the light part of a safari. Gizmo, you're asking what is the length of an elephant's trunk? I would guess that is about 2 meters or so from like the mouth, the opening of the mouth, or maybe where the tusks come out, down to the ground. Must be around 2 meters, but it's almost like, I don't know what that musical instrument is called, but one of those musical instruments that can go longer and shorter, that can like compress and expand. And an elephant's trunk can do very, very similar to that. They can pull it, it can shorten quite a bit, and they can lengthen it right down. Looks like he's just using the tip of his trunk to smell around there. Maybe smell the other elephants that were there just now. Accordion, that's the one. Yes, an accordion. Oh, having another drink. It's quite nice to almost see the silhouette of him against the light compared to having that beautiful light on him like we had the first time. Nice to have a bit of a change. So we've definitely worked out that noise is not flatulence, by the way. It's definitely coming from his trunk. He's just breathing out through his trunk quite noisily. I've never heard an elephant make so much noise like this out of his trunk, but I'm guessing he must have a reason for it. It's like he's It's almost like when you've got a hole in the top of a straw and you're trying to slurp up some kind of drink with a straw. Jessica, absolutely, definitely a photographer's dream shot. And also hysterical, you're right. See, a photograph can't capture all the talking that we've had about elephant flatulence. But yeah, it's really beautiful with the sunset in the background and the elephant in the foreground. It is quite a scene. Marcel and I were just saying we wish the road carried on a little bit further up ahead of us so we could get the sun in between his trunk and his body and take a photo like that. But unfortunately the road doesn't go that way, so we'll have to wait for another opportunity. Look at his trunk. Now his trunk is just flat against the ground. Oh, there we go. It's almost like little involuntary movements of his trunk. See, he's still just sniffing around. Ooh, we're going to send you across to Ngala quickly, back to that leopard. He's on the move. She's on the move.
And so I don't want to get excited too quickly, but she's moving and fiddling around with the carcass, which I'm sure she's just trying to readjust. She has, however, been glancing up at this tree a lot more in the last few minutes. And so I thought that she might be trying to hoist it up. Let's see what she does here. And there, she even picked it up by the spine. I think I can even hear a hyena in the background. And so if she decides to hoist it, she needs to make that decision quite quickly, because these hyenas will be here fairly soon if they get wind of this. And now she's completely moved off of the carcass. I don't have the right angle. I don't know what she's feeding on there. Maybe a broken part of the carcass that has already come off by the looks of it. I wonder, it might even be the head. I think it could be the head. I can't see it properly, but it's just a small round, or maybe a piece of the leg. I'm not entirely sure. But maybe she's decided that she hasn't, or she's got all of the meat that she needed off of that one little piece, and so now she's just moved on to the other. Melissa, she's spending a lot of time feeding. I'm sure she is hungry. But good to see that they've made use of this carcass, whether it was them that caught it or whether it was scavenging from wild dogs. But they seem to all be looking nice and healthy, big swollen bellies. And so I'm sure they're very appreciative of this meal. So we'll swing past. This young male hasn't really moved much. I think when he saw the movement of mother, he got a bit excited and thought maybe she was moving away from the carcass. And that made him sit up and look. Now that he realizes that he'll probably just get chased away, he's still deciding to rest up in the front of our vehicle. So we're stuck between a mother and a son. Not the worst place to be in the world. See, just in front of his nose there, and there I am. Sorry, just in front of the nose there, you can actually, when he takes a deep breath, you can see that piece of grass moving and shaking forward. And then look at his ear, the very, very top of his ear as it turns. And there's two different colors, that very, very white color and the black color. Remember when we were watching the female, the adult mother, she had absolutely no more fur left. It was all black. So that's one of the ways that we can look and see how old a leopard is by looking at the little white spots and the black spots behind the ears. And then that beautiful bright pink nose that he's got. So we are still going to stick it out a little bit. Like I said, we got some pretty exciting things happening with the hyenas that we're calling close by. So let's hope that we get a little bit more action from these leopards.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family.
Welcome back to Djuma Safari Nature Reserve. We are still in Chita Dam. There is a crocodile which just popped up in front of us. So it's just moving slowly on the bank of the Waterhole. So they're moving towards a northern direction. So you can see right over there, that is a crocodile. Only I've got Nile crocodile in this area. Thanks, Gina. Church, quite different. Very, very different. The hippo, they are only eating grass, and the crocodile, they are only eating meat. So, no matter the crocodile and the hippo stay together in the water, but they don't eat same thing together. So, at this time, it's about in the morning for the hippo to wake up to go and start grazing. They can walk long distance, up to 4 kilometers. For grazing, and they come back on their pod. So they're moving together with that male one as the alpha. So they will come back again in their place where they stay. And the crocodile, it's only eating fish. If is there any chance, they can go for anything which is red meat. So they can, as you see,
Just got a curry busted. I'm just going to try to go forward here. He's just disappearing through the background there. I'm not going to move here. Sorry, we actually parked with the bush right, and if I start, that bird's just going to fly off. But I'm just going to try to go forward here a fraction. We might get another visual. Sorry, that was quite challenging. Sorry there, Chandra. That was a bit of a curveball there, man. He's moved. Anyway, so that was a curry busted. So that's our... Have you got it? Just so when. Okay, we're just trying to pick this up again now. Okay, there we go. I'm going to wait right here then. It's not great. Jondra's doing a good job in keeping it there. It's turn direction, which there's going to come out in the open now. Oh yeah, baby. Look at that. So this is the heaviest flying bird on average in the world. And if anyone's got a question or got an idea of what the actual heaviest flying bird is, the record, let me know. But yeah, so Corrie bustards, one of the common names here is interesting. It's called a gompo in Afrikaans, which means a gum. Gom is gum, and a po is a peacock. So it's a gum peacock. And the peacock side comes from the males actually do this display where they fan their tail feathers, they puff out their throat and they fan their tail feathers. The gum part is more interesting because they eat gum off acacia trees. I've never seen that in 15 years, but apparently they do it regularly. So I think I need to watch Corrie bustards a little bit more carefully. But yeah, on average, the heaviest flying bird in the world, anyone that wants to, or that knows what the heaviest flying one is, let us know. We are now moving, and this is quite fun, we're moving into the wind now. The wind is coming out the north, we're moving in a northerly direction, and I'm hoping that we're actually going to find an aardvark for you. This weather is really, really good now, temperature's dropping nicely, and with the wind in our favor, it might be worthwhile. Yes, those Corrie bustards are beautiful birds though. Incredibly difficult to find the nests and the chicks. I've only ever seen it twice in 15 years, those nests. So yeah, there'll also be something to look for in the coming weeks. It's going to be a little bit challenging if we get aardvark in this area, just because of these thickets, like that. So I think the world record for the heaviest bird as one individual, I think it's an Asian bustard or a king bustard from Asia. There was a single record of one, but on average, Corrie bustards are the heaviest flying bird. And I hope no one guessed ostrich. Jandre says it's definitely not an ostrich. So I'm just going to carry on ambling down here. Like I say, if we get aardvark, we will be right back, I promise you.
So the female has moved off of the carcass, and her son took that opportunity. It took him about half a second to get up and run to the carcass. So we're looking at the mother now, and you can see she's just cleaning herself, getting rid of all of the blood that she's just got from that impala. So licking her paw, getting it nice and wet, and then cleaning the hard to reach parts of her face. I think it's amazing to watch how much time they spend keeping themselves nice and clean. And I always imagine that leopards are the ones that clean themselves the most. So where she's looking is where her daughter is, the young female. And so we are 2 for 3. Now we just need that young female to come over and try and feed. But look at the difference if we go across to the young male. Just watch at the different feeding behavior and the style. That female was very careful and she was taking nice big chunks, but it almost looks like he's slightly, almost more panicked in a way. And he's just trying to get as much of the meat off of the bone as possible. And so he's left with all of the hard to reach bits. And so now, instead of using the big sharp canine teeth, he might use his carnassial shear, so a few teeth on the side of his jaw that are specialized for cutting and crunching through bone like this. And just see how that head is moving at a much more frantic rate than what the mother's was. Ian, that's a good question. You know, how much energy is used by these leopards when they're feeding? And that's a necessity. They need to feed to gain energy. And so although they might lose a little bit by feeding, they'll gain a whole lot more by eating a good quantity of meat. I guess, that female will lose the most energy when she decides to hoist the carcass up the tree. But again, that's a sudden movement, so I won't think it would burn too much energy. I'm sure where they burn most of their energy is in the actual hunt, because they need to be so meticulous about it. They need to get as close as, call it, between 5 to 10 meters away from the potential prey that they're stalking. And in that time, it can last several hours. And every single second of those hours is full on concentration, and basically every muscle in its body is tensed. And so they need to creep very, very forward. They need to avoid the rustling of the grass underneath their footstep. They need to make sure that no other animal sees them. And so I'm sure that is probably the hardest part of the feeding process. So now they're reaping the rewards and restocking those energy levels. I was just looking at some of the features of this male leopard, and on his left-hand shoulder, there's a very unique spot pattern, which is like a U shape. And that is very, very distinctive, because in that U shape, there's a little white spot there. And so that is something that we can use in the future if we're looking to identify him and we don't have a proper facial shot of him. Seems like the mother's moving away slowly, and when it's time to leave, what she'll do is just slowly but surely let out these low grunts and contact calls to call both him and his sister. And you might find that he'll be distracted because he's feeding, and with the crunching of those bones around him, he might not hear them initially. But when he picks up his head and notices that both him, his sister, and his mother have gone, he'll move away quite quickly to try and catch up to them. And still no sign of those hyenas we heard calling very close to us. So we haven't found any hyenas, but hopefully Trish might have better luck. So let's go and see if she's able to find some for us.
Ooh, I hope so. My luck with hyenas has not been great since I've come back, which makes me a little sad because my luck with them used to be really good. But we are about to approach the den, so at least if you're with me, then we can have a look together. Maybe you guys will be my luck since we're going in live. We'll be more lucky. I know for sure that Corky's cub was here. Okay, I can see the cubs, guys. We're gonna just drive by. You're just gonna pan, right? You're gonna pan to them there. We're still a little bit far away. I just want to show it to you. And then we're gonna go. So you can see that there they are. There is the third one too. All right. That is all we're gonna get, guys. I'm gonna just do a little quick move around, see if there's an adult there, but I don't see an adult. You guys are my luck. You certainly are my luck, because I've come past here many times and not seen them at all. They're behaving as if they expect an adult, or that they see one that I'm just not seeing. I just thought I'd play it safe and look from afar. HB, you say so cute. Terribly, terribly cute. Okay, I'm quite sure I see no adult, everyone. I don't see an adult at all. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna try and stand by the main road and see if we're lucky with with an adult, because then the cubs can't see me or hear me. It's about 600 meters away from the den. Thank you very much, everyone. Do you know how many times I have visited this den since I've been back? Maybe 4 times a day, twice each drive. Most of the time, because there's nothing to show you, you don't come to me during that time. But you have been my luck. 100%. Now I'm only going to come to the den when I'm already live with you.
Go ahead.
That was pretty cute, right? Sue, you see, you say totally happy to see those guys. I am too. Everybody looks healthy. Corky's little one is so tiny compared to Ribbon's too. Ngwazi and Chimbulu. Get that right? I think I did get that right. Giselle, you'd like to know, well guys, where is Corky? I don't know where Corky is, but her cub looks fine. I mean, obviously it's tiny, it is a very small cub, but she's obviously feeding it. So she is around. I haven't seen her. I saw Heart yesterday, but I have not seen a Corky. I'm really, really happy. Really, really happy. I'm really glad I could show you that. Really, really happy. I hope everyone is a little less concerned about them now, especially since we've seen them after this long spell of not seeing them at all. Anyway, back to some spots for you, and let's see if they've moved now that the sun has set.
So we thought we would give the viewers a challenge, and we're going to keep this picture for the next 10 or 15 seconds or so, and we would like you to spot the leopard for us. And so look at your screens closely and tell me if you can spot this leopard. If you are struggling to see it, no worries, we'll give you a clue. Have a close look at the green bush. Okay, your 10 seconds is up, so we'll show you exactly where it is. And as predictable, it's nowhere near the green bush. This is the young female that's now come to join us. And you can see she's facing away from us, and she's almost done exactly what that young male did. And so she obviously heard the feeding going. I think she noticed that it was her brother, realized that he would probably just chase her off, and so she's laying down only a few meters away from where her brother was lying down a few minutes ago. And this brother is still getting tucked into the back hind legs of this impala. But no, I have to keep you on your toes, so I did try and throw you off a little bit. And see now, I mean, from what it was this afternoon when we first got here, where that back leg was completely covered in meat, to now almost seeing only white. It's amazing how effective these leopards can be when they're wanting to feed. So now that they are, or he at least is really chewing on the ends of the bone, I'm going to stop talking for a little bit and just see if you can hear the crunching that we are able to hear from here. So we can only faintly hear it. So Emma did hear it in final control, so I hope that went through to the speakers at home. But that noise, I mean, if we can hear it from 10 meters away, other animals will be able to hear it from 50, 60 meters away, depending on which way the wind is blowing. And so I'll be interested to see what the mother decides to do from here. Sure, Laura, you can even hear flies buzzing around. That's very impressive. You know, and I mean, if this carcass was a couple of days older, that meat would have turned to a much more dark red maroon color, and in places would have even gone black. And that would have attracted a lot more flies. And if that was the case, we would see him going crazy trying to chase the flies away. So his tail would be flicking from side to side. He'll be flicking his ears a lot. And so there's not too many flies around at the moment. So I'd love to see if this young female decides to feed. So I'm going to stick it out for another 10, 15 minutes before we make our way back towards the road. But there might be the chance of a male lion waking up. So let's go and see if he's showing any signs of that.
Welcome back. We're trying to eradicate this lion as we promised that we will be back. Definitely we'll be back. So it was just lie down. It was up. There is sort of like he was hearing the footstep of a giraffe. There is a big male giraffe right over there on this premises, which I believe that due to the footsteps make him wake up. But he's going down again. So as it's right over here, we'll trying to wait a little bit to see what is going to happen again. The question. Sorry, I didn't copy the question for Anna. A comment. Oh, that's it. Yes. Oh, thank you, Anna. Let's wait a little bit. I believe it's gonna roll because it will start to be active. As they are apart, each and every partner will start to calling its partner to join together. So they will call. Be patient. Sorry, I didn't copy. Why did the lion attract so many? Flies. Yes, it is, Shandy. The lions, as they are eating meat, they have got some blood which is splitting to their body. So that causes the flies go for sucking that blood on their body. So that they go for just only for the blood, its smell. Good question. Yeah, to support that question. Okay, we will wait a little bit. Maybe Anna will be lucky. They're going to roll.
I want to say no luck this afternoon, but that would be ridiculous when this is what we're looking at. I mean, yeah, I can't get luckier than this. This is about as good as it gets. So we may not be seeing too many animals, but the setting is just out of this world. Absolutely incredible. We've got half an hour left or whatever it is. So I'm still hoping. We've got two big warthogs way down there, but they're miles away. Kelly agrees with me. It is stunning, and you run out of words when you see these landscapes, when you're actually on the ground here, and you just see how vast it is, how immense this is, and everything here is within Tswalu. Yes, if we get an artwork out here, this is going to be one of the most memorable sightings ever. And remind myself not to look at the sun with binoculars, because my eyesight will be as bad as my hearing in no short space of time. What are you snorting for there, John? Yes. Come on, boykies. This is great. Shami says the scene makes them hear campfires crackling, and it really does. I mean, this is campfire material of note. And the stars, I wish I could show you the stars in some way. The stars here are just like on a different level. And there's no light pollution out here whatsoever. Come on, we need to get an aardvark or an aardwolf or a pangolin or an African wildcat or a caracal. Any one of those this afternoon would be fine. But we will. We actually saw an aardvark earlier, but it ran away just before we could actually get it properly. So, but this is just gorgeous. So we're just going to keep ambling down here. Keep our eyes peeled. These big open grasslands are really, really good for the termites, for the harvester termites, which is what most of these animals are feeding on. Vets has asked, what are the chances of seeing an aardvark as it gets dark? So that's a great question in terms of the ecology of these species. So typically they are nocturnal. The things that they're feeding on, which is mostly termites and ants, are normally coming out later at night as the temperatures start dropping. But what we see in the winter months, like now, when the nighttime temperatures are so cold and the daytime temperatures are mild, certainly in the late afternoons, the things that they're eating, the ants and termites, tend to be on the surface of the soil, or very, very close below the surface. And that's, so the aardvark, and then they shift their behavioral patterns. They start becoming active in the late afternoon. This time of day is absolutely perfect for aardvark. The only catch is that today was actually a little bit warmer than it's been for the past 3 weeks now. And that's why I think they're only going to be moving around at the summer. We saw one about, it was probably half an hour ago, give or take, but it just bolted. But they are around now, so, and it's probably one of the best places anywhere on the planet to see aardvark during daylight, and pangolins, in fact.
Not too much has changed here. This male leopard is still feasting away on the impala carcass, and his sister is hanging around waiting for her turn. Still no more sounds or smells or sight of hyenas in the area, and so they might have, the ones that we heard might have already started their day and just chosen a different direction to move in. He's really working hard to get as much meat off of the back leg as possible. He hasn't even tried yet. I did notice around the spine up to the front shoulder that there was still some meat, but also quite tricky to get in between the individual vertebra to get off of those pieces. So we might find a little bit later that might be what is the only thing that's left for the young female. You see how he is now focusing a lot more on what's going on around him. And so, I mean, he was spending a lot of time head down in the carcass feeding, but now that it's coming to twilight and into the dark hours of the night, and see those ears are moving around, so they pin back a bit, but every now and again he'll stop feeding and just have a quick little look around. It almost looks like he's got a piece of bone in between his two paws and he's trying to pluck away the meat like that. Lola, I think at this age, these young leopards have got pretty strong, healthy teeth, and so chipping them shouldn't be an issue. You know, I think they'll also test the bones, and at this age, the only bones that he might be able to feed on are the small ones, so the very ends of the rib bones, maybe if it's a young impala, one or two of those very thin leg bones. And as they start to get older and more frail, you might find that then there's a greater risk of the teeth getting chipped. I mean, there's a few famous cases at one of our other lodges in the Sabi Sands, andBeyond Kirkman's camp, where there was actually a male lion who I think tooth got kicked by a buffalo or something, and his tooth was hanging down basically below his jaw, and it hung there for several months at a time and eventually fell off. And so it does happen, but it only tends to happen when they start to get quite a lot older than what this young male is now. So my goal of having all three of them in one shot doesn't seem like it's a possibility yet. They are much closer. I mean, they're spread out they're in one line, and they're probably about 30 meters apart from one another. So the mother's the furthest away, and then it's the young female who's waiting her turn, and then this young male's the closest to us at the moment. So we'll quickly just double check to see where the female is. And I'm sure she's in the same spot, but she's moved. Yeah, there we go. Look at the very dark little spot in that bush, and that's her. Yeah. So almost impossible to see. If we were driving along the road and she was lying like that, I think I would drive past her 10 times out of 10. Yeah. Amber, it's been a wonderful afternoon, and we're just so lucky that we get the opportunity to spend this length of time with these leopards. I mean, we've been there, we started the show, so at 3 o'clock our time, and it's almost, 5:45 now, so that's 2 hours 45 minutes that we've spent with these leopards, which is super special in itself, because when leopards are moving, and they move in such tricky areas that it's very difficult to follow them with a vehicle, and a lot of the time you'll lose them. So for us to find them on the kill, relaxed, moving around, seeing each of the individuals quite nicely has just been a really special afternoon. So we've got 17 minutes to line up the shot of the family portrait with all three of them together. So I hope everyone's holding thumbs and crossing fingers, and let's see if we can make it happen.
thank you very much. I believe that you did enjoy the leopard. It is something special to at the same time. We're still right over here for those two male lions, still flat cat sleeping. So maybe sooner or later it will be waking up because now it's getting cooler. So wait a little bit. Yeah, Carrie, it is sort of like normally as everyone get tired, they also get tired by sleeping. So yes, the bellies, you can see that it's full by your naked eye. But for them, they have to be active during the night.
Did you see the other males with full bellies? That's a question. Did you see the other males with full bellies?
Yes. Yes, we did see the other male's bellies, that it's full. Yeah, they don't look like as it's breathing because as the male one are very, very, very lazy, more than the female one. So they take long time for relaxing until they will be active a little bit later, start to do their job, as it is to protect by its territory, to protect the pride. Okay, we're gonna leave this line soon to see something if we will be lucky on our way back to home.
I have my spotlight out, which can only mean one thing. Firstly, I have left the main road for Lamont's cut line where in case it got pretty dark, so I thought it's okay. We know that fiery neck nightjar. Let's see if it's gonna come back. No, it's gone. We know that they're there, and that makes me happy enough to see that they're all looking healthy, at least from our distance, and 3 of them are there. It's been far too long. It's been a week since we've seen them. So I remember I started on Monday last week. Cammy, you say that I will find a chameleon? Well, Cammy, how did you know that that is what I was looking for? I am looking out. Oh, I thank you, Theo. That is lovely. Here, showing you a bit of the bush and the last bits of light. Cammy, I hope I don't disappoint you. my usual chameleon. The one that was near Gallagher Pan. That one is not there. So we're going to have to go out and find a new friend. Nighttime glorious animals. That would be awesome. I know somebody else who's looking for a special critter at this time.
So we are still on our search. We will not give up. I'm determined to find us something. Something of one of the ones that I mentioned earlier, like aardvark, aardwolf, African wildcat, caracal, or pangolin. All of the above would do well. Yeah, all of the above would do well. But this time of day, the temperatures drop perfectly now. Jenna, who is 11, has asked, what sound do aardvarks make? That's a great question. They are normally very, very quiet, very silent animals. They do make lovely snuffling sounds. That's a nice word, snuffling. They make little snuffling sounds when they sniffing out termites and that. And then also sometimes they've been recorded, when they've been recorded fighting, they can make very, growling is not the right word. I'm just trying to think of a good word to describe it. But they do make sounds when males are fighting, and they've got these long claws that they can actually do quite serious damage with on opposing males sometimes. But otherwise, they're very, very, very silent animals, very quiet animals. Like a pangolin. Pangolins also make very, very soft sounds occasionally if they sniffing in holes and stuff. But what is cool with pangolins is that the scales actually make a lovely rustling / rattling sound. And especially, well, if they're moving through dry grass, and you can actually, if you sit very, very quietly, my hearing is so shot, so I wouldn't do it normally unless they're very close. But if you're sitting with a pangolin and it's close by, even if you can't see it, in dry vegetation, you can actually hear that pangolin moving very, very, very easily. Come on, everyone, keep your eyes open. We need all of your eyes. Let's get one.
It would be incredible if we could end off the day with a beautiful aardvark in the Kalahari sands there. I don't think we'll see one in Ngala. I think in my 2.5 years I've only seen 2. I guess there's a chance, but you never know. This male leopard is still feeding. I mean, he's pretty much completely finished the carcass. And for a brief moment he stood up to readjust himself and also just drag some meat around, and his stomach is looking really nice and full, so he's had his fair share of food, but it doesn't seem like he's leaving too much behind for his sister. And see, now he's really having to work hard. He's using his front teeth to grip as close to the bone as possible and then pluck any of the sinew and the meat that's left there. Well, if this was Mordecai, if this was killed by wild dogs, you know, they would have eaten as much as they could have, and then they would have moved off, and so they wouldn't really return to a carcass like this, and they would probably go on and hunt a fresh kill. And because of their high success rate, they've got a very good chance of hunting and succeeding in their hunt. And if they happen to come across a leopard, they'll probably consider it as a threat. And because generally leopards move around in ones or twos, in this case threes, they're outnumbered by the wild dogs. So although they're slightly bigger, the wild dogs are a formidable pack. And if they happen to come across a leopard like this, they'll be sure to give it a hard time. And I mean, all the leopard needs to do is climb up a tree. Both of these cubs are very skilled climbers at this age, at least, not hunters. And so they'll be able to avoid a wild dog quite easily. No, they won't necessarily, if a wild dog were to pin a leopard down, I mean, I think if anything, they might fight over a carcass, but I don't think they'll actively go after and try and kill a leopard. As long as the leopard shows that it's not interested in harming the pack, then the pack, after chasing it up a tree, will probably lose interest quite quickly and return back to whatever they were doing. The biggest threat to these leopards at this time of day, like we've been mentioning the whole afternoon, is a wandering hyena that's starting its day looking for scraps just like this. And I mean, if this leopard isn't paying attention and this hyena comes up to it, you never know. One little bite of those strong, powerful jaws can cause serious damage to a young male of his size here. So we've got a few more minutes left and no sign of the two others coming to join him. So unfortunately, the family portrait seems like it's not going to happen this evening.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family.
Welcome back. We are still on a sighting of the Ngala. At this moment, there is nothing which is active, still as it is, the flat cat. So, as I believe, because the bellies are still full, as the male are very, very lazy, they can be here for a little bit while, maybe another extra hour. So, but normally, if they were a little bit more hungry around this time, it's a time for them that they can start hunting, or they can start looking for the pride to join them. Gina, not really sure. I'm not really sure is there any favorite. I believe everything, not a really straight favorite.
Having a problem with the light. So we have a problem with the infrared.
Thank you. We'll be leaving soon, as now it's getting dark.
So now we can see that really nice full tummy that I was talking about, and he's looking like he's had a very, very decent meal. And now look where he's feeding. So moved away from the hindquarters and now focusing on as much of the meat that he can possibly pluck in between the vertebrae. And what I thought the mother was feeding on the head, I was obviously very mistaken, because that head is still attached to the body. And so maybe she was feeding on one of the legs or something. But that is quite a gruesome sight to see that head of the impala flopping up every now and again. And so interesting to see that it's all completely intact. look at that belly. He is so full. Another quick look around, and he keeps looking in exactly the same direction where those hyenas were calling a little bit earlier. Zorro, I also wouldn't think that he could fit too much more in his stomach, but I think these cats have got the ability to completely gorge themselves, and they basically, they won't stop eating until they feel completely full. And it all stems from not knowing where the next meal's going to be. Elephants, impalas, they've always got this pretty constant food source. But big cats like this are in a constant battle to try and get their next meal. See, he's just readjusting. I mean, they've got to consider other predators in the area. It's a dangerous thing to do. They could run the risk of injury. They could get spotted. So they've got a lot of extra things on their plate to consider when they're hunting. And I mean, if we consider our day this afternoon, it's been absolutely incredible. Starting with these leopards in the afternoon, we've seen male lions in Djuma, we've seen nice big elephants at Phinda. It's just been a wide variety of game. And it's been such a privilege to be able to share it with everyone. And like always, we'll be here tomorrow morning. Barney is going to be taking over the reins from me, and he's always got something special up his sleeve. So let's hope that he shows everyone some really, really nice things. So tomorrow morning, be sure to tune into YouTube. I think the start is at 6:30 tomorrow morning. Nice and bright early. Get your coffees, get your rusks, and come and join us on a wonderful safari. Hope everyone has a great evening.